A lot of hosts, take off and they do well and they add one property and the second and the fourth and the sixth. And then you're in this, swing of things and you don't know how you can get out or how you can, scale things down so you have a life again because you feel like that this is your full-time job.
This is episode 2 of Airbnb Success Stories. Welcome back to Airbnb Success Stories. I'm your host, Julian Miata. This is a show where I talk to hosts about their journeys in starting and growing a short-term rental business. My goal is that you'll be able to walk away with practical information that'll help you become a better host and learn how to scale your business. Since we are new podcast, reviews would greatly help us grow, so please go on over to iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, wherever you're actively listening, and please leave us an honest review, and we'll feature it on the next episode, whether it's positive or constructive. Today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Kate Birtch, who runs a short-term property protection company called Property Protect and has been on the Airbnb platform for 6 years. Kate identifies herself as a digital nomad, and she's been able to travel the world and do work remotely thanks to her short-term rentals. Kate is an experienced Airbnb vet and has owned and managed properties all over the globe, including Hawaii, Vietnam, Texas, and Cape Town, South Africa. If you'd like to see my notes for today's episode, then go on over to airbnbss.com/EP2. Or if you'd like my show notes for every episode sent directly to your inbox, then go on over to airbnbss.com/show notes to subscribe. With all that being said, on to this week's conversation. So welcome everybody to Airbnb Success Stories. Today I have Kate Birtch. Previously was Kate Yanov, but Yanov, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, you said it perfect.
All right, Kate Yanov, and she recently just got married, so congratulations, Kate. Kate, would you mind letting the audience know a little bit about who you are and what inspired you to get into short-term rentals?
Sure. So I have a background as a marketer. I've been a host for about 6 years now, primarily with listings in Hawaii. I originally rented a house from a landlord in Hawaii, and he allowed us to rent out that house. And so that afforded me to travel. And from that, I was able to save up enough money to buy my first property, second property, third property, some of them in the States, some of them overseas. And so I have a few rentals that I run myself personally still. And I'm also the founder of Property Protect, which is an automated damage insurance policy that we offer for hosts or property managers. It's a $5 flat rate per night policy that will protect you from any sort of guest damage or theft.
Wow, and that's really interesting. So what came first? Did you said that the Airbnb started, and then that caused you to want to get into the Property Protect, the insurance business, which I imagine is very complicated in itself. But what kind of inspired you to get into the insurance for Airbnb specifically?
Well, I had my first guest damage case after 4 years of hosting, 4 years of bliss and, phone notifications of new reservations coming in, things couldn't be better. I ended up having a guest come into my Austin house for South by Southwest, which is a big music and tech conference in Austin, Texas. And he booked at the last minute at the peak rate. And he ended up peeing on my couch, which was really unfortunate. I think he just liked to party a little too much. And with that, I went through the booking platform and I, took pictures, documented everything, submitted the information. I went back and forth with them for 2 weeks and I didn't really get anywhere with their internal staff. And so they ended up closing my case, and that really kind of let me down because I felt like, I'm putting my house out there, I'm opening it up to all these different guests. I'm also profiting, they're profiting. But when the time came to have some sort of protection and coverage, they kind of weren't there. So I read through all the terms and conditions and I realized that there wasn't really a solution out there for hosts and managers like myself to protect their property. And so with a marketing background and a little bit of tech hacking, we were able to develop the platform. And so now we offer a $5 flat rate damage policy for hosts.
I'd like to talk a little bit about that because I know that Airbnb has that $1 million insurance policy, and they also it's hit or miss with the claims. So why why Frank peeing on your couch? How did he get away with that this time? That'd be pretty disappointing if you spent a lot of money on that, or if anybody peed on my couch, I'd be pretty upset. But how come it didn't go through that time that you believe?
I think as the booking platforms grow and they just get bigger, you have different inconsistencies with the customer service when you call in as a host. And it's not to say one's better than the other, but when you got down to the bottom of, submitting documentation and this is what happened, and I even had Frank admit to the damage, he said, "I'm so sorry. What do I owe you?" It comes down to who the merchant of record is for the transaction of your deposit. And it turns out that with a lot of the booking platforms, they're actually the merchant of record. And with that means that they control the flow of the money coming in and going out. So even if, I have Frank admit to the damage, the booking platform said, no, we don't think this, we're going to have to, reimburse for this. And so they basically closed the claim. So that kind of left me high and dry. And so the reason why I founded Property Protect was to always have another layer there just in case, because it's a little difficult when the booking platforms represent both the host and the guest at the same time. So I just wanted to make sure that we offered something where hosts have peace of mind.
Right. Being a real estate agent myself, there's that term called dual agency where,
Yep.
you can't really have a side when you're representing, both sides. So you really want to find someone, you want to get into that agency agreement. So like my clients, they would want to get into a buyer's agency agreement with me, or a selling agreement, because I can confidently represent them. But when you start getting into that dual representation, like Airbnb, it represents the hosts, but it also represents the guests. And, that there's that ambiguous line. So what are some ways that, having that experience that you do with the insurance, what are some ways that hosts can protect themselves in case a Frank comes and pees on their couch?
One of the easiest things that hosts or managers can do is simply write checkout instructions. And I can't stress that enough. Not very many hosts actually use those. And all it is a list of simple tasks that you send the day before to your guests, the day before they check out, and asks them, please put all the trash in the trash can, very simple things. Please, strip the beds of the linens, or put all the towels on top of the washer, or, very just simple, but something small that holds the guest accountable. I found that I've had very minimal damage with, all of my units, and I have units all over the world, where if we ask that of the guests, it still kind of keeps them on the hook a little bit, saying, you can't just walk out of my house and leave it a disaster. So I think that is one tip. I think also, going with your gut feeling. If you have a really bad feeling about a guest, it's not worth the money and the headache. We just had a customer recently that said, "Oh, I should have listened to my gut." And I said the same thing about Frank when he came into my house. But I think also one last thing that people could do is, employ different types of security measures where they have got equipment like a Ring, video camera, or noise awares, like a noise party detecting device. So using those types of measures just to kind of have some sort of checks and balances in place with guests. Most of the guests are great. 95, 97% of the time, you're going to have wonderful people, but you just have those things in place for the one or two characters that come through every now and then.
Okay. And in the case that you do get a Frank, how could you win a claim against, through Airbnb to be able to get that couch? Like if you could go back and you could recreate that scenario, how would you been able to have come ahead, or would you have been able to?
I don't believe that there's 100% guarantee way. And even though they state that they have a guarantee program, it's not, because it's not guaranteed. They have, the jurisdiction to say yes or no, whether they want to reimburse for any damage or theft at the end of the day. So things that I would recommend doing to give you a higher probability of being reimbursed would be to make sure you document and open a claim right away if you notice any damage or theft. Second would be to get some sort of guest acknowledgement documented in the app or on a text message. I would refrain from phone calls because you can't have that documented. And then third, just have persistence with following up with the booking platform, whether it's Airbnb or HomeAway, VRBO, Booking.com, and just stay on their customer service. Because I think when I went through my claim, I probably called them close to 50 times over the course of 2 weeks. So just, being persistent and, some things are just the cost of doing business, where you have a woman that takes her makeup off with your white towel and you're just angry because it ruined your towel. Those are things that kind of come with, being in the hospitality business that you just have to kind of shove off and say, okay, well, for every 20 guests, I get one bad one. And, the more that you can set your expectations like that, the less, heartfelt it's going to be when that unfortunate event comes up.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for all those awesome tips. What was the most challenging part of starting your Airbnb, your Airbnb and becoming a host?
When I started about 6 years ago, I was getting tons and tons of inquiries. And one of the things that was challenging, but I also learned right away, was how to automate guest responses. And figuring out how to have a tailored approach to those guests. Because in the beginning, they were coming to Hawaii. They were very excited. They wanted to, find out where all these tips and recommendations to, see Hawaii like a local were. And so figuring out a way where I wasn't losing my mind with a couple different listings and saying the same thing over and over and over again, but making it feel personalized to them where they feel special. Because they're also spending a lot of money with you. And, it's not, you're not being inconvenienced by, taking 2 minutes to respond to one of their questions. So really trying to figure out how to automate your processes, whether it's with your housekeeper and sharing the Google Calendar with them so they know when to come and go, whether it's, setting a check-in guide to your guests and then checkout guide, but all of those types of little tweaks that you can do in your process just to make your life a little bit easier.
Are there any key things that you've kind of put into your house manual that has kind of helped? Because you want to create that authentic, you want to create that experience for the person. Like you said, people are going to Hawaii because they're on vacation. They want to have a beautiful time, and last thing that they want is some host that's not communicating with them or just saying, Google where to go eat. Like, you want to create that experience. So what have you done to be able to create a more personal experience while also saving yourself time by automating it?
One of the things that I did in the beginning was I actually stayed in another Airbnb in my market, and I looked at what that host was doing. And then I figured, okay, if I'm a guest in a new place, what would I want? I want rental car information. I want to know what taxis. I want to know places to eat. I'd want to know like off the beaten path places if I want to explore, or the high touristy areas. And so I put together a live like a local in Hawaii portion of my check-in guide. And it gives them, tips on different restaurants or different hikes or different beaches to go to that a normal tourist coming from a hotel would never, ever have exposure to. And we also kind of, we get a lot of people on their honeymoon or on anniversaries or family trips. So we try to tailor the check-in process for them a little bit differently and more special. If it's a honeymoon, we'll ask if they want champagne and mac nut chocolates or flowers. If it's an anniversary, we ask if they want a beach somewhere to get photography done. So really trying to tailor to why they're visiting and if there's anything that we can do to help make that a little bit more special.
Wow, I want to stay at one of your places, Kate. Just be like, yeah, could you get me a bottle of champagne and let me know where I can get some Instagram photo people for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I know those places.
Okay. Are there any specific things that you do to set your properties apart?
It's a lot more competitive nowadays than it was 6 years ago. We just try to be as responsive as possible. And I know that's a very simple thing. But at the end of the day, if somebody's got a question and they're on vacation, they don't want to wait an hour or 2 hours or the next day to get an answer. And so I think with us, we've got like 100% response rate in terms of what does the guest need? kind of like the W Hotel. And I don't want to come off like a hotel or compare us to that level of service, but it's kind of like, what do you need? How can we help your stay, be the best it can be? And so I think with that, we get a lot of good feedback from guests. Like Kate's team was super responsive. I've also, over the years, employed another kind of concierge type assistant into my guest stays. So they're the first point of contact. And even though I'm still very involved with seeing all the messages and, chiming in with certain comments and messages as well, their sole job is just to be, there for the guest.
So concierge, you're employing virtual assistants?
We don't have a virtual assistant for that. We actually have somebody on the ground. But I do use a virtual assistant for guest communications before and after their stay, just to follow up with them, see if there's anything that they need, beforehand when they get there. And then afterwards, just following up to make sure their stay went well. And if, asking them if they wouldn't mind giving us a review.
Now, virtual assistants, typically when I think of having virtual assistants, I think it's maybe someone that's kind of scaled up and they have like hundreds and hundreds, but you have 4. So when did you kind of realize that it's like, okay, I need a virtual assistant to be able to help relieve some of the pressure from your other duties?
Sure. When we started to acquire properties in other countries and time zones played a big issue, that's when we decided like, hey, we don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night anymore to respond to a guest, but the guest also deserves a quick response. So trying to facilitate time zone coverage was a big reason why we brought on a virtual assistant. A lot of hosts take off and they do well and they add one property and the second and the fourth and the sixth. And then you're in this, swing of things and you don't know how you can get out or how you can, scale things down so you have a life again, because you feel like that this is your full-time job. And for a lot of people it is. And for some, they're still, hobby kind of hosts. So, figuring out processes and figuring out how you can streamline things or delegate specific communications was key for us to still be able to have family time, on the weekends without our guests suffering or having, any sort of communication gaps.
And how did you go about finding your VA?
So I actually have a friend in the real estate business. His name is Frank Salas, and he actually has a VA training business where he trains up VAs specifically for real estate. A lot of them are focused on regular real estate transactions, but he also has some that are familiar with short-term vacation rentals. And I hired one of his people, and what he does is kind of grooms them, with different apps and software that they're familiar with, brings them over to you, stays on board for 30 days. And then after 30 days, they're kind of yours. You take them to run with. They're your employee. And he can still pop in and assist, however you need. But the woman that we hired from his program is fantastic. And she's been working with us for over a year now, I think.
Okay, so that's it's not just someone that can disappear one day. This is kind of like someone that almost like it's an employee. Like they've worked with you, they know your properties, but they're also working for other people.
It just depends on how much you need them. I had mine start at a part-time basis in the beginning, but now she's full-time. So it just depends how many properties you have. What are your needs? Are you wanting to, start to ramp up direct bookings as well? And so you need lots of social media exposure and coverage and content that you're pushing out. Or are you just managing platform bookings? Or do you have a channel manager and you want to make sure you're maximizing occupancy? So it just kind of depends on your goals.
Okay. And what I thought was pretty interesting was you said that you have a concierge, someone that's on the ground in that area. Can you mind explaining a little bit about that, how that has been able to better assist you, and how you've been able to train them and work with them to be able to help your guests?
Sure. So we hired a company called IRC in Hawaii, and they're actually a family-run business, and they take care of our housekeeping and maintenance. So they're kind of added into Airbnb as a co-host, and they're able to see all the guest communications, They message the guests and introduce themselves, the day that check in, and give their phone number. And if the guests need anything, they call the concierge directly. I'm kept in the loop if there's anything that's significant, like last month, I think we had a refrigerator just die from being old. And, they went, picked up the new refrigerator, coordinated with the guests to deliver it, went out, and actually we repurchased all the food that was in the refrigerator for the guests. The guest was happy after that. And so those are types of things that make my life as an owner investor a lot easier, as we scale up with more properties over time.
Now, is this IRC, are they the same as like a property management company, or are they, do they take the same rate, which is I think around like 20%, or is it a little bit more because it's a concierge personal business?
We have like a tiered scale with them where we have like a cleaning rate, we have a concierge rate. They do have like a full hands-on property manager rate as well, but I'm still kind of hands-on, involved with the guests. So we haven't scaled up to that level yet, but it's not the typical like soup to nuts owners, absentee, and there's a flat percentage. We don't do that yet, but that is a possibility for other owners if, they were interested.
And do you utilize property management styles throughout? Because you said that you also have a property in Cape Town, South Africa.
Yeah. That one, we actually have family there, so it's a little bit easier to manage. We just do it ourselves there as well. I did have a property in Vietnam where I hired staff on the ground, and they managed the housekeeper, and we had like a receptionist as well. So I did have a point person there. But for most of our properties right now, we're just kind of doing it as an owner, and then with some small assistance from some team members that we hire.
Now, I think that's really interesting about you, Kate, because I think most of the people that are in the Airbnb space are more localized. They're more in CONUS in the US. How is it running Airbnb businesses overseas, and how do you find these boots on the ground like in Vietnam? I know that you've traveled and you've met these people, but let's say myself, like I want to start an Airbnb in Thailand. How do you go about doing that?
Sure, you should totally do it, and it's possible. First of all, you can actually start to get involved just by joining some of the host groups on Facebook. I know that you guys have a host group. There's some country-specific host groups. I actually had a friend of a friend who ended up being the manager of my place in Vietnam, but she was also very involved with the Airbnb host group of Vietnam and Da Nang specifically. And so with that, if you wanted to get started, I think one good step would be to join the Airbnb host group and say, hey, I'm a foreign investor. I want to look at owning or renting a property overseas, and I'm looking for a co-host or a manager. And most of the time, the moderators of that group or the group members would be really open to talking with you, sharing their stories, giving you like localized market specific information that you need. And, you kind of go from there. But I would highly suggest hiring somebody in the market, because there's all sorts of things that you have no familiarity with, in terms of taxes or permitting, guest check-in, check-out procedures. Like it's different in Vietnam, where we have to take a picture of every passport of every guest that checks into our place, because we're held liable for it by the government if something were to happen to that guest. So you definitely want to have that person that has that local intel working with you and on your team.
So you don't suggest going into any foreign country alone and trying to set up an Airbnb. You suggest partnering with local investors in that area?
I would at first, just so you don't make an expensive mistake. You can go in, but you just want to make sure, currency exchange rates, how does the banking work? What happens if you can't get a guest out of your property and you need to evict them? You really want to have somebody that kind of knows all those ins and outs that, with what happens with an unforeseen experience, rather than like, this is going to be a home run, everybody else around me has 100% occupancy. I would plan more on the kind of cautious side in a foreign market, especially because, it's a lot of money sometimes that you put into these properties to get them up and going. You wouldn't want to lose that. So.
Yeah, I'm sure that we could have a full conversation about the intricacies of dealing with like the liabilities and the the taxes and the claims and stuff like that with countries overseas. I'd love to maybe get you on for another episode just talking about foreign countries in the future if you'd be okay
Absolutely.
with that. But let's go back to you starting and kind of growing your business. What was the most challenging part of growing and scaling your Airbnb business up to 4 properties, I believe you had at one point, or 6 you had at one
So
point? I'm
we
sorry.
had 6 at one point, and we sold 2. The most challenging was finding new capital. I think I would have grown even faster if there were other ways for me to acquire new properties. And I think, as the home sharing and, gig economy kind of expands, the mortgage industry will evolve. But at the time, over the last couple of years, it's been really hard to find money to buy and acquire new properties. I think now there's a company called Host Financial now that actually lends to people that are wanting to acquire a short-term vacation rental. And so I would definitely check them out. I'm actually going to try them out myself with a new project in a couple of months here. But I think just being able to find capital or finding opportunities like landlords that would allow you to re-rent, it's definitely not impossible. But I think 6 years ago, it was a lot more challenging than it was today. And now, the market's seeing the kind of income and revenues that investors are getting from Airbnb. And so they're creating products that will accommodate us as hosts and real estate investors.
And so when raising capital was an issue for you, you're not doing the rental arbitrage thing, you're purchasing these properties and investing equity into them?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you do differently if you had to start from scratch?
One property right now, we have a challenging situation because when we purchased the property, in the governing documents of the condo building, it stated that hotel use was allowed. And condos, I thought, were the end all be all. There's no landscaping, there's no pool costs, there's no liability, for guests a lot of the time in terms of like if they were to drown in your pool. And now looking back, I'm a little hesitant about condos because we're in a situation where we're in a lawsuit now with the condo association wanting to change the terms of our governing docs, which I think we're going to fare well with it, just because we purchased the property when it was we were allowed to short-term rental. But I would definitely say check on zoning if you're purchasing a property, check on the legality of the regulations in the market that you're in. You don't want to be in a market that's a struggle where people are anti short-term rental. It brings your whole vibe down and really kind of wears on you over time. So look for places that are short-term rental friendly. And if they're not, then also be a participant in the local public policy or mobilization teams on how to push for, fair short-term rental markets and policy. I think that some of the challenges we have with the Hawaii units are, just the same as other places like San Diego and LA and Paris and New York. As these booking platforms get larger, those policies, could be changed over time. So just make sure that you know the market that you're going into and do your research on if short-term rentals are going to be allowed for a while, because you don't want to buy a couple $100,000 property and then have that change, when you're banking on that recurring revenue to come in every month to pay the mortgage.
Right. And that's the really scary thing that a lot of people are getting into Airbnb and they don't even really consider that is that
Right.
the zoning and the regulations, because not only is it, state specific your Airbnb rules, but they're county specific. So even within the state, there could be multiple counties that have different rules and different hotel industries and different people in that area might be more, against Airbnb. And then it gets even worse when you get down to the condos and HOAs because they can just do whatever they want. So I think the bottom line is stay away from condos and HOAs because they can change on a dime.
Yeah, if you can. I mean, if you can't, there's still plenty of buildings out there that are, short-term rental friendly, and I would definitely invest in those in a heartbeat. We have one that's short-term rental friendly. The other one was, and now it's, up in the air where it's trying to change. But the houses that I've owned in the past, we've never had problems with it because, we investigated with the regulation and everything was fine. And, those were the easy listings to have.
Are there any tools that you use to manage your properties that have made your life easier?
Yeah, actually, I've used Guestbook. I've been an early adopter of them since they were in the beginning. That's helped to automate guest communications. They're a fantastic tool that kind of it's almost robotic, where it's like your guests, arrival date's coming up a few days before. It sends out my check-in guide to them. It sends out the checkout details to them. And it's just a fantastic tool. So that is definitely a software I would look into. Vrilio is a new, how do I describe it? It's a new short-term rental only MLS marketplace. And what that means is these are properties that they're not on the MLS, they're off market, but they actually have all the financials listed. So if you're looking for new short-term rentals, you can see what the cash on cash rate is. You can see what the average weekly rate is that they're receiving for, on an Airbnb. They can see the taxes. Everything's kind of dashboard view. So that's really helped me look at new markets to see, maybe I want to go buy a property in Florida or somewhere in Alabama on the coast. It's given me a quick snapshot way to analyze the properties rather than go through Craigslist or go through the MLS and then try to work up the numbers on my own.
When you're looking for a new property, whether it be overseas or locally, what's typically the first thing that you do? Are you checking the financials? Are you looking at the zoning rules?
All of that. If it's an existing short-term rental property, I'll typically take a look at what their gross income and then expenses are. A lot of owners don't factor in, extra supplies, maintenance, wear and tear, carpets. If you have carpets anywhere, you got to replace that, constantly because you're just going to have a volume of people coming in and out of your home. If it's overseas, looking into permitting, licensing costs, currency exchange is even a big one. If you're managing it from the US and it's overseas, you'd be surprised how much a $15 bank wire or currency exchange transaction fee costs over time. So those are all different things to take a look at.
Okay. And is there any product that you couldn't live without in your rentals that has saved you time and money?
Product that you mean like a software application tool?
Not software. Like, is there like a specific like a towel or like some people say smart locks? Is there anything that you have that you really can't have not have in your units now?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few. One would be the Schlage Camelot keyless entry deadbolt. That is on every single one of our units. I can actually remotely update it too if I need to. Second, we installed the Nest thermostat in a few of our units because some guests would leave for the day with the windows open and leave the temperature turned down to the 60 or 66 degrees when it's 100 outside. So I can also remotely change that or lock it. So it helps with the utility bills that they don't have to pay for sometimes. And also, I would say I've started to use Amazon and Walmart both to do supply reorders on a regular basis. And that has created such a big efficiency for our house cleaning crew, where we kind of know how often we go through toilet paper, paper towels, dish or laundry detergent pods. And so just having that on auto reorder has helped quite a bit as well.
That's really Yeah, I myself got the Schlage Camelot keyless door entry thing, so I think we can put an
Yeah.
end to the big debate on what's the best smart lock. Because
Oh
everybody, it
yeah.
seems like that's always, hey, what's the best smart lock? What's the best smart lock?
Yeah. I tried a Wi-Fi one, and I just don't want a guest to ever be locked out if the Wi-Fi goes out. So that worried me. And so I just wanted something that was the battery operated. And it's part of our maintenance schedule that every year all the batteries get replaced in remotes, in the front door lock, anything else in the house that's battery operated. So
Awesome. Yeah, those are great tools to help automate the process and help make it easier. Is there anything that you do that has helped your guests leave positive reviews?
asking for them. I think that's one of the biggest things as a host that a lot of people are afraid to do. They're worried that, like, they're going to come off too pushy. And honestly, the guest chose your place based on reviews. So asking them to leave a review shouldn't be, a hard thing. I know it puts us in a bad place as a host if the guest leaves the house messy or damaged. And that's kind of why we created our product, because we actually don't deal with guests at all at Property Protect for any damage, because we know that we're all in the business of reviews. And if you're kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place with a guest that left a mess, it challenges your review. But I think just asking them for the review. We also put a picture frame in all of our properties that ask them, to leave a review, and we'll give them a comeback code, which is kind of a discount code to return for another visit. That would give them 15% off. So that's kind of a small incentive for them as well.
Okay, that's a pretty unique. I haven't heard of that one. Putting a little picture frame. Some people like put plaques and stuff like that throughout their house to let the guests know, because people don't read the house manual. But to remind them with the little picture frame, like, hey, if you could give us an honest review, and we'll discount you at the next purchase. And that way, they might be able to also do a direct booking, which could also save them money as well.
Yep.
And
exactly.
What is one piece of advice you could give to someone who is trying to start an Airbnb business?
Find a mentor. I kind of hacked it on my own because Airbnb was probably about 3 years old when I got started, about 6 years ago, 7 years, maybe 4 years ago. But I would say find a mentor, take a look at your market that you're familiar with, make sure that you're also kind of a good neighborly host. There are hosts out there that kind of make others look bad because they're looking at this as a quick, form of income, and they don't really care if their guests are causing a disturbance in the market. So don't be that host. You can learn a lot from other property managers that have been doing this a long time too. So just kind of act as a sponge and see how much information you can glean from other people. I'm sure you guys offer a wealth of information in your Facebook group as well, but joining a Facebook group and finding somebody that's gone through, different properties, different types of guests, luxury or, $99 a night, and just figure out where you fit in that type of hosting style and run with it. It's fun. It's a great business. And you can make a lot of money and, build a lot of assets over time. So it's one of those few types of jobs that you can take on and have a lot of fun with. So go for it.
Just go for it. Just do it. Is there one house rule that has that you've had in your house manual that has saved you before?
Yes, we've revised it over the years, but it's the no smoking, no parties house rule. And it's in cap letters on all of our listings. It's in the house. We actually send out no smoking stickers to all of our customers at Property Protect. Smoke is one of those things where you can't really show tangible damage. And so as an owner, it takes a lot to get that out of your home, especially if you do same day turnovers. And so that is big and bold. And it says, if you are caught smoking, we are able to recover the full deposit amount. Because if it's really bad and you've got a party full of people smoking in your house, you're going to have to cancel future bookings, get a deodorizer, and have like an extreme cleaning. And that's a lot of money. So, and that's something that's hard to prove. So definitely the no smoking rule. I think the other rule too is just quiet hours. One of the things that you want to maintain is being a good neighbor. You don't want your neighbors to start to get antsy that you're having, short-term rental guests in your property, especially if it's in a like a housing neighborhood. So just having your guests abide by the quiet hours rule too. You can't have enough rules. I can definitely say that. So I would definitely make sure that you're thorough with the house rules in your listing.
Okay. And what do you see the future of Airbnb going? Like where do you see short-term rentals and these platforms that provide the service going towards?
I see it continuing on. I think that travelers like to have a variety of options. When I was traveling around Southeast Asia, I would stay in a lot of homestays and guest houses. I didn't want to stay in a big hotel. I wanted to have a local experience. And I don't think that hotels could ever provide that. So I think that there is a place in the market for us. And I wouldn't get detoured by a lot of the media regulation stories. And, San Diego is a perfect example where they banned short-term rentals, and a few weeks later they retracted the ban, and now they're revising the policy. And so I would say it's definitely going to keep going. I think that you should do something to set yourself apart, because we're going to get to a point of saturation, I believe, within markets where you're going to be competing against price. And that's never a good thing. So always make sure that you are up on your game with, making sure your place looks great. If you don't have tons of money to furnish it, and deck it out with lots of high-end furnishings, at least have, better customer service, or it's the cleanest, condo in that area, or, do something special, like give them a takeaway soap or chocolate or something little that's not going to cost you very much. But I think that the market's going to continue to expand. And as Airbnb prepares for an IPO, we've already seen Booking.com, HomeAway, VRBO start to, take their user experience in their platform or their angle towards marketing vacation rentals. Google's starting to market towards vacation rentals as well. So I think just making sure that you're also not reliant on one booking platform would also be helpful. I'm starting to look into how we can get positioning on Google with our listings and get more direct bookings. So I would definitely, take a look at that, and don't put all your eggs into one basket with one booking platform.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of the people are kind of stressing now, is like, it like YouTube. YouTube is one platform for you to that provides content, but YouTube can change. YouTube changes all the time, and some people build their whole lives around this single platform, and then YouTube goes and changes its AdSense or its algorithms, and you're completely out of luck. And that Airbnb is the same thing. It's a platform for people to be able to list their properties. It doesn't mean that that's the only way to list your properties. There's other direct booking and VRBO, but it's just one platform to do that. I just want to thank you so much, Kate, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be able to share this knowledge. You have such a wealth of wisdom and experience, just having been on the platform for so long, and being a digital nomad, and traveling and getting into the insurance for short-term rentals. I think you are a very, very knowledgeable person, and I'd love to be able to get you on the show to be able to explain about your process of traveling and purchasing short-term rental properties overseas, because I think that that's an untapped market. I think there's a lot more interest in it now, because right now the Airbnb is, I wouldn't say it's becoming saturated in the US, but there's a lot more interest than there was when you first started. So people are starting to look elsewhere. So I would love to get your input and your experience in a future episode, if you'd be okay with that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. And I would love and be honored to be on the show again. I'd really appreciate that.
Awesome.
And it's fun just to talk with other hosts and owners, about their experience and what they've done. So
that is right.
I learn as I go as well.
Yeah. And I'd like to just make a couple little plugs. Is anybody in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area? We just started a meetup group for hosts to be able to get together. So being in the tri-state, there's lots of regulations for each area. So if if you're local and you want to come and meet and talk hosting or short-term rentals, then definitely check us out on meetup.com. Also, the Facebook group, of course, not just ours, but all the Facebook groups for Airbnb is a great way to get plugged in. But is there any way that people can reach you, Kate, if anybody has any questions or more information?
Absolutely. You can reach me at Kate, Kate, at mypropertyprotect.com. If you're interested in our damage insurance policies or just want to talk about hosting, I talk to hosts all the time and happy to give, real life experience from, what makes my life easier as a host, or just giving them little tips and tricks to make things, a little bit more streamlined. I'm happy to chat with anybody or go grab coffee. I'm going to be in between San Francisco and Tulsa, Oklahoma this year. So it will be an interesting evolution to our rental portfolio as well.
Okay, awesome. And I'll include Kate's information and everything in the show notes. If you want the show notes for this episode, everything will be on the website airbnbss.com. But thank you so much, Kate, again. Until next time, guys, keep on hosting and talk to you later. Hope you hosts benefited from the show. Like any exceptional host, we all strive for 5-star reviews. So please go on over to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you're frequently listening to the show, and leave us an honest review. Let us know what we're doing right or how we can improve, because that's what we want to do. We want to become better hosts. I want to become a better podcast host and a better Airbnb host. Talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace out.